So this is the Community Support Organization's RFP information session. It will be hosted and co-hosted by myself. My name is Andrew George. I am the program manager. I joined the North Carolina Biotech Center in January, specifically to lead this project. And it's been a whirlwind, and I'm excited to meet all of you and get to work with you, I hope. My official title is the program manager for the Life Sciences Manufacturing Ambassador Program. I am co-hosting with Katie Stemper. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, Katie?
Sure. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Katie Stember, Director for Life Science Economic Development at NC Biotech. I will be working very closely with Andrew on the Ambassador Program.
Awesome. So with that, we've already captured the first part. You made it through the first agenda item. Well done. We've welcomed and gathered. And so, as I mentioned at the top of the call, hopefully 15 minutes, maybe less, depending upon how quickly I speak. We're going to go through a little bit of background of the ecosystem, the context for this proposal, and then the majority of the time is going to be spent on questions. And so we will be on for the entire hour, just in case others pop in later than the start time. But as soon as your questions are answered and you have no more, don't feel like you need to stick around. You're welcome to leave whenever. During the background, also feel free to interrupt me and ask questions or clarifying questions if there's something confusing as well. Don't feel like you need to wait until we get to the questions. Awesome. Any questions so far? Hopefully not. Awesome. So with that, I'm going to actually turn it back over to Katie to introduce the broader context for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. So for those of you who haven't sort of been involved with this from the beginning, a North Carolina coalition of kind of 7 different lead organizations submitted essentially 7 different projects, all focused on advancing life sciences manufacturing in North Carolina for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. 3 of those 7 projects ended up being funded. So one of those projects is led by the North Carolina Community College System. It's very focused on additional faculty support, equipment, expanding training offerings for life sciences manufacturing. The second project is led by the BRIGHT program at North Carolina Central University, and they're very focused on bringing biomanufacturing training to other minority serving institutions across the state that haven't historically had access to that training. And then the third funded project is NC Biotech's Community Engagement Project. There's kind of 4 different parts of that project, of which the Ambassador Program is one of them. So we'll be working very closely with the community college system and our HBCU, HAIU partners with this Ambassador Program. But that's kind of the background context, is that they're technically 3 separate projects, but we'll all kind of be working together to advance all of these goals.
Thanks, Katie. And so as we move through this and zoom into the NC Biotech specific community engagement piece, as Katie mentioned, there are 4 components of, even within the NC Biotech led efforts. So we've got the Life Sciences Apprenticeship Consortium, and so 3 of the projects are focused really on that access piece. We've broken it down into 2 categories, at least for how we think about it, which is specific access, direct access into the job or workforce, and awareness of the opportunities, the broader landscape. And so Life Sciences Apprenticeship Consortium, Dejanay is on the call. There's a number of NC Biotech folks here as well, and so she'll be working heavily with that. And they'll be focused on bringing together a number of companies, biotech companies in North Carolina, and training 220 apprentices. We've also got Logan with us, who's part of the Life Sciences Manufacturing Prep Program, focused out in Pitt County, and it's focused on seniors. And providing them access and an understanding of what goes on in manufacturing, life sciences manufacturing. And then we have another partner in Durham that is a really intense pilot of their BULLS program. They'll be training 100 or more individuals in Durham County, urban residents, in the bioworks training pre-apprenticeship program. And so a really interesting effort. That's about all the time I have to talk about that right now, but I want you to also understand, as Katie mentioned, the other context of the things that we'll be talking about. Those 3 core pieces of just the community engagement will be a strong part of what the ambassadors are pointing individuals towards, is these other programs that are opportunities in addition to the 2 larger external to NC Biotech groups. So that leads us to the last part, the ambassador program. And so that's really focused on the communications and awareness for the life sciences manufacturing industry, and that's the focus of our effort. In the big picture, sort of metrics for the program, we're looking to train at least 250 ambassadors over the course of the next just under 2 years by the end of 2024. And ideally, those ambassadors, while they don't have to live in all 79 of the counties, they have some familiarity with or connections to 79 of the counties in North Carolina. And then finally, those ambassadors themselves are ideally at least talking to 10 individuals or making connections with 10 individuals on average. Not every ambassador has to do 10. Specifically, some will do more, some will do less. But ideally, we're engaging at least 2,500 people around the opportunities in life sciences manufacturing. And so with that, you're probably wondering which 79 counties. And here's a nice little graph or map of the 79 counties in North Carolina that are covered under the Build Back Better Regional Challenge investments from the EDA. And this will be the focus of the ambassador program region. But we're not doing it alone already. So as part of the submission process, there were 2 existing community support partners that we're already working with and we will be working with, who are covering the East and also the Southeast. So we have NC East Alliance and NC Southeast. As you can see here, they are covering the sections in green, and you can see a small little section where it overlaps. A little hard to see if you can't tell the little fade or the weighting for the different greens, but they do overlap in their regions. And then importantly for this group is we have no existing community partners identified. I don't want anybody to leave this thinking we don't have community partners in these counties. We do have relationships in those counties. It's more about the fact that we don't have specific community organizations that we're looking to partner with who have deep relationships that we don't already have in these different counties. And so I also want to make a point here to say that if you happen to represent an organization that covers the entire state and has good relationships across the whole state, awesome. That's great. That's not going to be a hit against you. So if you cover some of the green counties, that's totally fine, or even all of them. But we are prioritizing organizations that have at least some relationships in the blue counties, because we do need to cover the entirety of our geographic region. You'll notice there are some light blue counties, again, similar to sort of the green. If you cover those counties, excellent as well. They just don't fall under the explicit purview of this project, but it doesn't mean we won't be engaging with or be happy to talk to anybody that's in those counties about opportunities as well. Just want to make sure that the blue counties are covered, or the counties that are highlighted in blue have strong support from a community partner as well. Deal partners. So we're looking for organizations with a proven track record of success in recruiting, in training, in supporting community leaders, ideally from a diverse background. And so we're looking for organizations and individuals that are part of these organizations who really want to partner with us to figure out what's the best way and approach in your area, your community, to engage and promote this awareness. We don't pretend to be experts across the entire 79 county regions. We know a lot of people in different counties, but we're really going to be looking for organizations who want to work with us and serve as a thought partner and advisor as we try to tackle this effort. I'm going to jump into the scope of work. So these are three bullets that are pulled straight from the RFP. Just wanted to highlight that one of the main requests for these community organizations, one of the main asks, is to identify community members that would be good ambassadors. Additionally, as I mentioned, to advise myself and the rest of the NC Biotech team on scheduling and best approaches to accommodate the different needs of communities across North Carolina. So what time, locations might be best to host the trainings that we're going to hold over the next 2 years. And then finally, for this part focused on the ambassadors, is to help us articulate some of the local context. Not all of the life sciences manufacturing industry is equally distributed across 79 counties, and so obviously there will be different opportunities at different organizations and entities across the state. And so we want to be able to provide the ambassadors with regionally and locally specific materials and information about the opportunities that are actually in their area, as opposed to just generically, the North Carolina's got a great life sciences manufacturing, industry. You should join. And so that'll be one of the other main pieces from the trading content and identification aspect of the RFP. And so, as I mentioned, because the opportunities are not equally distributed across the entire state, our target numbers for ambassadors per region also look slightly different. And so we would ideally be looking to identify ambassadors. They don't have to be these exact numbers, but these are targets for the different areas. And this should also help. One of the confusions previously around the RFP is that you are not responsible, or an organization that participates in this is not responsible for identifying all 250 ambassadors. You would be responsible for identifying, let's say, in the Charlotte area, you would be responsible for helping us identify around 40 individuals to go through the training. If there are 2 support organizations in your area, that's going to be split in a little bit of a different way. But so that would be a conversation that we'd have as we go through and figure out who's applied for and is going to be accepted, about how do we actually break out those numbers. But you are not going to be expected to do the 250. Additionally, the trainings sort of reflect that same breakdown. So we'll be doing trainings, or this many trainings, in each of these areas. This is the target number to try to keep the training small, as opposed to having these large, massive 50-person trainings. We really do want, as part of the training experience or the workshops themselves, for ambassadors to develop relationships within the cohort that they participate in, as opposed to just being one in a sea of many people hearing the same information. And so that said, again, target numbers. If somehow we have this amazing outpouring of support and excitement and we get 250 ambassadors in the first 10 trainings, then great, we're probably not going to keep to the 42. And so just wanted to make sure everybody had a good sense of that as well. And then, yeah, so you might be asking yourself, because you wouldn't be the only one and you're not the first person to ask me this question, who is an ideal ambassador, or what is what should I be thinking of when I think of an ambassador? And here's just a couple examples. These are not exhaustive at all. And ideally, we're looking for community organizations or support organizations to have great ideas about who these people could be. We definitely don't know all of the examples, but one that comes to the top of mind is career counselors, or anybody that's in sort of a career development role. They'd be a great individual. There are plenty of communities that just don't know about the life sciences manufacturing industry just in general, and career counselors that also don't. So if we can empower them, because their normal day job involves talking to a lot of people thinking about what should they do next, that would be a great place to start. Success stories from the industry. So individuals who have gone into life sciences manufacturing that are from the communities that we're trying to engage with. Those would be great ambassadors to talk about the personal experience they have navigating this process. Generally, community leaders, or anybody that has a good relationship with the community and is looking to focus on this aspect of economic mobility and empowerment within their community. They do not need to have a life sciences background in order to be an ambassador. That's not a requirement. And so this is just to give you a sense of who potential ideal ambassadors are. And then to also briefly speak to what is it that an ambassador is going to do. So you're going to be identifying, these individuals and going out to ask your community to participate and sign up for this. And right now, this will not be the only things that we ask of them, but at the start, they will participate in a half-day training. We are in the process of developing a platform in hopes that we can do some of these virtually too, to accommodate different availability and location-based issues that we might run into. But in general, it'll be an in-person training where they'll get a lot of the sort of 101 on what is the life sciences manufacturing industry. What are the opportunities in their area? Hear about people who have, ideally, if we fast forward to a year and a half from now, they'll be able to talk about a number of the people who have done the apprenticeships, or who have graduated from the different programs that we've talked about at the very beginning of this call, and engage with their communities. And so the last part of that is they are going to be asked to, on average, at least every ambassador, we're going to ask them to come up with a way to engage with their community that is meaningful to them and to their community about providing this information to at least 10 individuals to end up at that 2,500 mark. In addition to, of course, that sort of metrics-driven piece, we're still hoping, or we're in the process of figuring out what additional activities and/or support can we provide to ambassadors over the next 2 years that would help them build this community of around life sciences manufacturing and the broader life sciences industry. That can look like inviting them to upcoming events or being able to provide opportunities for them to speak at different types of events. We don't know the answer there, and it's another place that we'd love advice and suggestions and brainstorming from community support organizations on what would make the most sense for individuals in your community and part of this community to really get value, right? Obviously, we want the job seekers and people who are going to transition into these careers to have some value from this opportunity and access, but the ambassadors themselves are going to be volunteers. So how do we ensure that it's a meaningful and valuable experience for them as well? And so that transitions to a couple of the pieces of support that will be an ask for community support organizations as well, which is that ideally 2 staff members from the organization are willing and able to participate in the ambassador training and serve as active members of the community portal. And I'll talk about what that means in a second. And then serving as beta testers. And as I mentioned before, this idea of thought partners as we develop what it could look like for online trainings, as well as sharing communication resources within the community, given the differences of how everybody likes to receive and engage with information. And so in addition to the community support organizations, there will be a future request for proposals for a marketing and communications support, as well as we are internally working to develop with a partner a platform, a community platform that will support a lot of the work that we're doing. And so here's just a mock-up. This is, in general, we haven't made any decisions about what this exactly is going to look like, but it will provide a place, a dedicated place for ambassadors to be able to ask questions, engage with each other, share resources. It has both mobile friendly it'll be mobile friendly, as well as you'll be able to access it through the web or on your desktop easily as well. But this will be something that we hope that any community organization or individuals that are part of that organization would be open and willing to help us make this the most useful that it can be, because it is a platform that has a lot of capabilities, but we want to focus on things that are actually valuable and useful to making sure the community has the support that they need as well. And so just wanted to make sure that you are aware of what it might look like and sort of what is community platform could mean a lot of different things. And so some of the details that are in the RFP, I'm going to run through these pretty quick. There are 4 awards, or up to 4 awards that are available at $50,000 for the total award amount. It will be over the course of 21 months by the time we actually get it executed, likely in April. So you'll have a little bit less than 2 years in terms of the engagement. I'm not going to read this. This is just for reference, and if we need to talk about something specifically here, but this is included in the RFP as far as the proposal requirements rubric. This is what we'll be using to evaluate the proposals. And so ideally look to this section of the RFP. I think it's on the last page, to ensure that you're capturing all of the relevant information that you want to communicate to us as we consider the proposal. Finally, we do have this highlighted, or we do have this in the RFP, but it's kind of hidden amongst the many other pages that are included in the background context and whatnot. But we are looking for organizations that have expertise in community engagement, managing volunteers, leading training programs, economic mobility, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're not expecting an organization to have experience in all of these areas, but these are areas that are important for us to be successful. And so ideally, if you have any relevant experience, please do share with us in these specific areas, or be sure to at least highlight in your proposal these types of experiences and how they would be relevant to working together. This is another point where I do want to just acknowledge that we are we are new to a lot of this, and so that is one of the reasons that this was written in as opposed to something we would try to just do on our own. We really do want to work with organizations to be in an actual partnership and working relationship where we actually figure this out together. I think is one of my last slides, sort of key dates to keep in mind. We already released the RFP. You are almost done with the virtual information session. Thank you for showing up. And then questions will be due. So any questions that aren't answered or discussed here, you have questions after you leave, please submit those to Katie or myself. Our emails will be on the last slide. And those will be due by February 17th. We will capture all of those questions. Don't expect an immediate response to those questions. We will be capturing those in a document where we will share that out on the website I mentioned before, so that anybody who's applying has access to the answers to those questions, so that we ensure that everybody's getting the same information. And then those responses will be posted to that website by February 23rd. And then you'll have until March 3rd to submit formal proposals. And then we will do our best to make it through those proposals by March 17th to notify of award or not. And as with all timelines, the caveat being that subject to change based on, extenuate or external circumstances that we can't predict. But ideally, we're going to do our best to keep to this timeline. And then last little bit about submitting. Do include, these are notes specifically in the RFP. Please do include a cover sheet to identify your firm with the project title and the solicitation number. Your narrative should include supporting materials. This can be appendixes. This can be CVs that are attached that addresses the outline or the sections in the proposed requirements rubric. And then finally, please include a clause that this proposal is valid for a period of 45 days. And then please do note this piece. Submissions will need to go to Alex in a single PDF via email, and his email is here. This information will also be up on that website that I mentioned for access. Okay, we've reached the questions portion. All right, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Concerned about the regions in the mountain areas. Oh, mountainous areas, you have counties, there was 2 or 3, but the surrounding counties are not. Is that because there aren't enough people, or the industry is just not there for those that are in that area?
So I'm going to let Katie correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but the second piece, there aren't as many existing entities within those counties as far as the life sciences manufacturing companies in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, the region for the ambassador program, the 79 county region, is actually determined based on where our partners will be working. So the community college system had kind of a region that they're planning to reach, and the HBCU coalition had a region that they were planning to reach. And so we wanted the ambassador program to be well overlapped with the region that they were already talking about. But yes, the short answer is not a lot of training infrastructure and not very many companies out west. So we didn't want to train a bunch of ambassadors and community members and get them excited about these opportunities until they're actually more available. But as I'm sure you all know, it's chicken and egg. If we have the talent, then it's easier for the companies to come. So we need to do some out there, but we wanted to start and kind of do a proof of concept where we had more of the infrastructure with plans to hopefully expand after the end of the grant. Andrew, did you see? I think there was a question in the chat.
I actually came off of camera, but I'm in 2 places at one time. Happy Monday. Bobby Banks with Pillar Consulting. I'm curious because I know this is federal funding, and there are varying definitions when it comes to DEI of historically marginalized populations, underserved populations. Is there any priority or any language from the federal government that says these consultants need to reflect the populations being served? Just trying to understand more about when you say diverse populations, are you looking for populations that reflect the demographics that you are seeking for your ambassadors? Happy Monday.
Yes. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the happy Monday. Yeah, so I'm going to make sure that I'm getting the question right because I think there's two pieces. Yes, the EDA does have specific definition. I'm not going to pretend, or I'm not going to try to state it. I will include that as a note within the website because I don't want to get that one wrong. But as far as I'm aware, I don't know that there's a clause about the consultants having the same exact background. Like there's no requirement of that. From my perspective, just me personally as the program manager, ideally that will be true. That the consultants would have a shared experience and a relationship with the community that they're serving, as demonstrated through either working with the community previously. You can include letters of support from community members that you know to be, or organizations that are working with those communities. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but ideally, yes, you would have existing relationships
It
with
did.
those communities.
Our beautiful state just has so many different, I mean, from mountains to
Yes,
coast, you have
right,
Native people, First people, you have our Latino sisters and brothers, you have, of
right.
course, Black folks, African American people. And so just, owning your identity, and we all have some history with communities, but also being very rooted and intentional about the importance of I just wasn't sure if the federal language had that specific information. But yes, you did answer the question. Thank you.
Yeah, the federal language is actually even broader than that. It includes diversity, like, people with disabilities, people that were hit hardest by COVID, they have a big focus on persistent poverty counties and people who live there. So it's all sorts of diversity beyond even sort of race and ethnicity is what I was trying to say. But yeah, so I think EDA has a whole fact sheet on all of the different populations that they consider historically excluded, but it's almost everyone.
Yeah,
Truly.
so the language is so different. Like if it's historically marginalized,
Yep.
we know historically which populations have been
Yes.
marginalized. If it's underserved, then yes, all of the other things you said, that does include underserved or under-resourced areas. So thank you. That's my question.
Thank you for the question.
Hi there, this is Tony Blunt from My Future NC. And my question goes back to your slide on the scope of work, identifying community members, advising, and helping develop locally relevant context. If accepted as one of the 4 projects, the scope of work seems like that's a lot of the beginning part of the project. So like throughout the 2 years of implementation, is the organization that's accepted as an organization of a project, we would not be accepted as an ambassador. We would be accepted to find and help locate the ambassadors. Is that correct?
Yes, that is a great, thanks for asking the question, and it's a great distinction. Yes, the organizations that we're looking for now are organizations that can identify individuals that would serve as great ambassadors. What gets a little confusing is that, of course, it's helpful to also know what it means to be an ambassador, so that's why we added the expectation that community support organizations also participate in the training so that they know what they're getting into or what we're getting into. And also so that you can help us develop useful, relevant training that reflects the interests and opportunities for the community that you're looking to help us support.
Tony, the other thing I would add is obviously NC Biotech, Andrew and I are located in RTP, and certainly we'll be traveling to other parts of the state for the ambassador trainings and that kind of thing. But we don't have a ton of boots on the ground support in all of these different areas. So we'd also be relying on these partners to help our, regional office. We do have a couple of folks in each of these regions, but they have a lot on their plates already. So trying to stay connected with these ambassadors, whether that's, having an event for the local ambassadors to keep them engaged or, that type of thing. But we didn't want to put requirements on that because that may look different for one community than it does for another. But in addition to identifying and recruiting, trying to help us continue that engagement over 2 years is another key function that we'd like to see these community support partners serve.
Thank you so much. And just a follow-up question about the ambassador. Is there a stipend for the work the ambassador will put in? Or is the award going to the organization that will help identify the ambassadors?
Yeah, so right now it's a fully voluntary in terms of the ambassador program itself. There's no money, at least in the grant, and we don't have a budget for the ambassadors themselves. This money is specifically for the organization that's going to serve as Katie mentioned, a bit of a point of contact for regional individuals, as well as helping us with some of the logistics in terms of relevant non-training events that ambassadors might participate in.
Can offer a free lunch and
That's true. Free lunch, yeah, that's right.
But yes, unfortunately, stipends were outside of the scope of this budget.
Actually, it reminds me of a place that we've been, we don't have answers, but we have ideas, at least as far as one of the hopes for the actual platform that we're developing is that we can also create non-monetary value of being an ambassador through the network, of course, that you would get with the number of other ambassadors that are part of the program, as well as any sort of events that we can do that are even just along the fun side of events, right? So thinking about whether you can do facilities tours or the platform has the ability to do different live streams. And so we're hoping to be able to do these types of additional non-training specific, like training is the first focus. We need to make sure we get everybody trained. But then also how can we help provide value to the ambassadors that's non-monetary as being a part of the group. Any other questions?
Just curious with my evaluator brain. I know you have the quantitative assessments. You want the 250 ambassadors to reach 2,500 people. Are there other things that for you indicate like we knocked this out of the park? Any other impact related or success measures?
Yeah.
I know beyond this funding period, you want this to sustain and have them continue to do great work, but are there any other things that you're looking to I'm sorry, I have a dog that does not know. I'm going to go back off camera on mute. But any other indicators for success or impact in the communities that you'll be serving?
It just sounded to me like your colleague had a lot to say, but I know they're always right. The furry colleagues, they're the best. Yes, so I would say those are the metrics. We actually are working with a group that's looking at like the whole coalition wide, what kind of additional metrics might we consider and how can we actually track those from a very quantitative perspective, recognizing that it can be difficult to share the data necessary to get all of those through lines. That said, from me personally, my interest in this is that we actually get people jobs and it changes their trajectory. That's the goal, is that we're able to, it's not about just going out and doing the same training 42 times across the counties of North Carolina. If that's all we are able to say at the end, that is not going to be, I think, the impact any of us are trying to make in terms of the grant. And so those are just the ones that the EDA has, we have to track. But the goal is to connect it to the rest of, the work that Dejanay and Logan and others at NC Biotech are doing, and the rest of the coalition to start understanding how we actually are making a difference. Are we getting individuals into the life sciences manufacturing industry and having the economic mobility impacts that we're trying to achieve? I think the life sciences, it's a really unique place in the workforce development or just in general as a value proposition that a lot of other manufacturing industries don't have or can't say. It has the educational spectrum of being able to have access to jobs with a high school degree and a credential all the way up to a PhD. And it also has the ability to get into the pipeline, let's say, of the biotech industry and advance. And so I think that's a place that not a lot of industries have that opportunity. There's a lot of a ceiling in terms of your career attainment. Being able to figure out how we transition from a job mindset to a career mindset. I know for me, when I was in high school, my intention was to be a welder and I had no intentions of doing anything else. because I didn't know about anything else. The only thing that was available there was to work at the paper mill. And so how do we help reach to the rural communities, the underserved? Yes, we'll get that definition too and figure out the exact explicit terms there. But yeah, ideally it's people. I mean, yeah, I don't want to sound too heady, but yeah, changing people's lives is the goal, is to actually provide them access and awareness and opportunity. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Thank you for being here.